Hello everyone, my name is Greg Cheatham. I'm 61 years old, born and raised in Seattle, Washington. I was born in King County Hospital, but some of y'all know it as Harborview Medical Center now. My address was 2919 East Cherry. I lived in the Central District all my life. I have 8 brothers, 3 sisters, and I'm the second to the youngest. And my experience with the Central District is nothing but fun. The things I can remember, the YWCA, they used to let us come down there and play basketball. All the neighborhood kids would go down there and play basketball and practice Kung Fu. And Omari, I forget his last name, but he was a Black Panther. He taught us Kung Fu at the YWCA. And there was a bakery called Brenner Brothers Bakery, owned by some Jewish ladies. And we was like 7, 8 years old, and she used to always give us cookies, give us cookies and milk and juice and everything. The Central District was a great place, predominantly all Black in the neighborhood. I remember when the Black Panthers used to march down 23rd and Union, and I was 10 years old, and I used to jump in that parade. I used to walk with them and everything. We had so much fun. Everything was predominantly Black. We had a Black laundromat called Cherry Street Laundromat right across the street on 29th and Cherry. We had Cherry Street Cleaners. Our favorite store was Jordan's Drug Store right there on 27th and Cherry. It closed at 2 o'clock in the morning. We used to go to house parties, and then when we leave the house parties, we go to Jordan's and get our little snacks and go home. And I remember nothing but love in the neighborhood. Nothing but love. And a lot of people don't know this. Where the YWCA is right on 28th and Cherry, across the street there's some apartments now. But back in the day, in the early 70s, there was a Black movie theater there. And we used to go there and watch black films, like Cotton Comes to Harlem, Bruce Lee movies. And they used to always had a pool hall called Cherry Street Pool Hall. And that's where I learned how to shoot pool, because that's where everybody hung out down there. So, it was a big family unity there. Because if one kid messed up, the neighbors could discipline you and take you home, and your parents would discipline you. That's how tight our neighborhood was. But now we have this gentrification thing, and to me, sometimes the CD don't look like the CD no more when I go through there. Because it's not like everybody just spread it out now, and nobody knows what other people are that we all grew up with. We have to see them like at a funeral or somewhere else, and we still would catch up. But the Fax newspaper, Mr. Fitzgerald Beaver, that's my first hustle. He used to give us, we used to sell the Fax newspaper for 25 cents, and he used to give us 10 cents out the paper. So we had stacks of them. And we would go to Miss Lowe's, Mr. and Mrs. Lowe's store, and buy all the candy and everything we needed. It was just family unity in the city, in the Central District. We had Singletary's gas station on 23rd and Union. 23rd and Cherry, mind you, take that back. Everybody played basketball at Garfield Recreation Center, the little gym. That's where I got my skills. I was pretty nice. Everything in the Central District was lovely. We had our grocery stores. We was blocks away from Lake Washington. Everything was right at our fingertips. The downtown Seattle, we catch one bus, we'd be downtown within, 6, 7 minutes, Everything in the Central was great. And it still is. Even though I don't frequent it that much, there was a place right now we call Cherry Hall. It's where recovering addicts and alcoholics go. But before it became Cherry Hall, it was a music shop called Ghetto Music. And the owner of that, his name was Curtis. And he used to throw parties on the weekends for us to have something to do. So we wouldn't be out there doing bad things. We would always go to his record store on Fridays and Saturdays because he would have discos for us. The Central District is the heartbeat of Seattle. You have to go through there to get to anywhere you have to go. If you want to go to Lake Washington, you got to come through the Central District. If you want to go downtown, you have to go through the Central sometimes, you know. It was great. And the South End of Seattle was great. Even though Garfield and Franklin had their little rivalries, but everybody knew each other. Everybody was great with each other. Even though I was a Garfield and some of my friends went to Franklin, we still rubbed each other the wrong way as far as the sports was concerned. But after the sports was over, we all came together as family. And like I said, I was born the second to the youngest. Like I said, I got 8 brothers and 3 sisters, and I have a single mom. But my mom, she was a tough woman. She was a tough woman. You couldn't do nothing wrong without her discipline. That's one thing she always wanted us to do, was stay out of trouble. And which most of us did. Most of us did. You know, and as we got older, we started loving each other more. And I'm talking about the neighborhood, not my family. We always loved each other. The neighborhood friends and everybody, we come together now. You know, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And when I found out about this production in the Facts newspaper, yes, I had to jump on it. I had to come here and talk to my man and had to come get interviewed. And it's a great thing. So now I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery for 16 years now. I still go to Cherry Hall. Everything is great right now for me. But I just want to let you guys know, the Central District was the spot. And I had this neighbor, the Waters, they were tough athletes. The Carters, they were some tough athletes. All around my neighborhood was tough athletes. And there was this one guy, his name was Sammy Drain. He played music, and he was a good friend of Jimi Hendrix. And he would always tell me, Cheatham, you got a good hit on your shoulder, stay out of trouble. I ain't number like 10, 11 years old, you know. He was an older gentleman. But rest in peace, Sammy. But I remember one day he was telling me about girls. He was like, you know, Greg, a girl can like you for anything. She can like you for the way you tie your shoe. She can like you for the way you comb your hair. You know, he was a player back then, and that's what I grew up around. To be honest with you, I grew up around players, hustlers. That's what the pool hall was telling me about. That's where I learned my pool skills, because there was hustlers down there. Everybody was down. Everybody was into something down there, and it was always looking out for the youngsters, made sure that the youngsters made it home before the street lights came on. And that was a big issue in our neighborhood, getting home before the street lights come on. But if you didn't, and you was missing, you would have the whole neighborhood looking for you. Yeah, we gonna find you. Yeah, you know. Speaking of the Waters, I was telling you, my neighbors, Donald Jr. Waters had a sister named Barbara Jean Joyce. The guy named Junior Waters was the best athlete I've ever seen, I ever saw. This guy would catch the ball with 5 people hanging on him. He would play basketball. The guy was tough. He taught me how to play the game. You know, like I said, our neighborhood, we all looked out for each other. You know, we had the Graysons. They was my neighbors for almost 25, 30 years. The Waters was my neighbors for down to 25, 30 years. The Carters was our neighbors for like 20 years. We had this old man named Mr. Merle. He stayed next door to us on 29th and Cherry. He would always give us 50 cents just to go across the street to buy my pop. That's how good our neighborhood was, you know. Cherry Street and the CD go hand in hand. You know, Mr. Bruce's laundromat, you know, everybody was close-knit. It was nothing that would nobody do for one another. We was always together. We had the Palmers. You might know some of the Palmers. Harold Palmer, Kenny Palmer, Eunice, Patricia, Gloria, Janice, Paula. We all grew up together. Now, kid you not, we would have summer fights. Every summer, we would go to the Army camp. And for those who don't know who the Army camp is, it's Paul Burnett Park. We would go there, have our little tit for tat, and then after we get done, we would go have a pop and some potato chips and act like we loved each other, which we did. Now the Army camp, the reason I call it Paul Burnett Park the Army camp, Because back in the 70s, they had army barracks in that park. And we used to go up there and play hide and seek and everything. We used to run through the army barracks. That's why we call it the army camp. Now some of the younger heads call it Castle Park. But the main name is the army camp. So if somebody asks you to go to the army camp, that's part of that park. So that's why I'm at that. We used to have this little bus. Used to take us to McDonald's on Rainier. And Ronald McDonald would be there, the Hamburglar, all of them. And this is my childhood. This is what I knew growing up. So, you know, yeah, we had fun on Cherry Street before all this violence and everything came across. And when they dumped the drugs in the neighborhood and everything went downhill. But we still love each other. We still see each other. We still have barbecues and everything together. I throw a barbecue every year at the Army camp. Every June 16th, if God still have me around, I'm gonna throw one every year. You know, I remember when I walked through the neighborhood, I still reminisce about Single-Terry's gas station. I reminisce about Bulldogs, where Ezel's is now. It was a restaurant called Bulldogs. It was the Garfield's Bulldogs restaurant. We used to go there every time. Mega Everest Park. We used to go to the water and go swimming there. And back in the day, we had this thing called the Battle of the Bands. Everybody would go to Garfield Park and sit on top of the swimming pool and dance, and we have bands, live bands, playing all music, and we would dance all through the night. We don't have that no more. There were things that we had that we don't have no more, that I really, really, truly miss. Everything was just great for me back in my day. I love my childhood. I wouldn't trade my childhood for nothing in the world, because that's where everybody was, and it was unity, it was love.